Okay, I'm Erin Somerville at McCallum High School, going over voter trends. Mostly, I'll be looking at political socialization and some basic vocabulary. But here, the question we're trying to get at is, how does data, how do voter trends, meaning looking at how various populations in the United States tend to vote, how does that affect the political parties themselves? So to, clarify this question, a party's platform, when we say the platform, we're talking about the list of policies or the list of goals that the party has. If you elect this party and they win office, these are the things they want to work on. This is their agenda. So the Democrats and the Republicans, as two different parties, put forth different platforms that they're going to offer different alternatives to solving problems, specifically what the government can do in order to address various issues, concerns that are current. And to have control of the government, you have to win elections. So we're going to look at the trends, because that's important for them to actually get votes and win election and fulfill those promises that they make. A little bit, though, in case I have gone before too quickly through this, as we're talking about Democrats and Republicans, these are the mascots. The elephant represents the Republican Party, the donkey, the Democratic Party. A couple other ways to identify them. We tend to use blue to represent the Democratic Party, red to represent the Republican Party, and the Republican Party's other nickname is the GOP, the Grand Old Party. So if I say, a state goes red, you're expected to know that means that that state votes very Republican. Or if a state goes blue, it votes very Democratic. And if it's a purple state, there's a good mixture, and we call that a swing state. It could go either way. So the heart of today is, how do people decide to vote? Are they going to have a party affiliation? And which party might they affiliate with? So we're going to look at some data to get at that. Also, another little heads up, since I'm talking about the Democrats and the Republicans, I need to clarify that those words have a couple meanings. Now, if we're talking about the form of government, like the democracy of ancient Athens, where people can vote directly on laws, that form of government you would write with a lowercase d. And if we're thinking of a republic, we do have a republic, but that's a lowercase r. That's the form of government in which we elect people to be our representatives. To be quite descriptive, we have a democratic republic. We elect people, and that electing part leaves power in the hands of the people. So the two party names are very patriotic. They embody good values in a Western society, in a Western democracy, but they don't really have much to do with the forms of government. The way you'll know it is in context. If you're hearing the news, you're listening to the news, you're hearing me speak. And then you can tell in writing, if it's a capital letter, we're talking about the actual party. Lowercase form of government. In this course, I focus primarily here, when I use these terms, on the party. So political socialization. If you can recall when we did a survey of our ideology, and you would have discovered if you are a liberal, conservative, communitarian, or libertarian. And then some of you, like most Americans, are actually in the middle. You don't have a steadfast ideology. But we did that survey to figure out, what is your political orientation? And that is not something you just pick willy-nilly one day. It's not something that you form overnight after you saw a really awesome documentary. It is, you develop that political orientation slowly over time, and there are a number of influences. But the biggest factor in your political orientations is who you're surrounded with as you grow up, your family. They have the biggest influence on your political leanings down the road. And that's not because, you have a grandparent whispering in your ear when you're 2 years old that you need to be a Republican or a Democrat. It's much more subtle and much more profound than that. Your family is where you learn a lot of basic lessons in life. You learn how to share, and you learn what to share. You're not supposed to share everything. And you learn at a young age what are the things you're supposed to share, what are the things you don't have to share. You learn right from wrong, at least what your family tells you is right from wrong. You learn what, you as a kid are supposed to do, and what your siblings are supposed to do, what parents are supposed to do, and teachers. And all of that comes together really in your early adolescence to form an idea of what you think the government ought to do and what kinds of things we share as a society and what kinds of things we don't share. So those early lessons will translate later into your outlook on politics, your outlook on the role of government. Now, media, especially with the growing influence of media, people usually want to point to this one as being a huge factor in political socialization. It is a factor, but I want to emphasize that it's not the big factor. The family is still the big factor, and here's why. You might be thinking, if I'm watching a lot of MSNBC with its liberal agenda, that it's going to make me liberal, or if I'm watching Fox News with its conservative agenda, I'm going to suddenly be conservative. Neither news outlet has the ability to brainwash you. You're the one with the remote control. You're the one with the mouse. You're the one that can decide what you're going to look up on your phone. You ultimately control what media you take in when it comes to at least political news. And so you tend to watch or consume your news from outlets that share your bias. If you are liberal-leaning, you watch MSNBC because it makes you comfortable, because it makes sense of the world for you, because it's looking at the world through a similar set of glasses. You watch it and you can pat yourself on the back because the things that you hear on that reinforces your liberal ideas. And if you are conservative, you're more likely to watch Fox News because same thing, it reinforces your understanding of the world. And you can pat yourself on the back and say this way of thinking is right because you have this source reinforcing that. So what I'd want you to write down here is the mass media reinforces your beliefs. So it could explain the growing polarity and extreme nature of ideology in this country at this time. But as far as developing those leanings, that really came at an earlier age. And then, of course, your school should not be giving you a particular bias towards any sort of liberal or conservative agenda. Ultimately, what your school needs to do is socialize you to become an active citizen, to be able to vote and engage in our democracy in a meaningful way. And also to make sure that you have an appropriate amount of patriotism, so we do the pledge every day, and you're required to take U.S. history and U.S. government politics to graduate. Finally, political socialization is a lifelong process. I don't want you to think that if you've been in this room and you hear one or two kids raise their hand a whole lot and they know the answers or they have the interesting questions, that is an innate ability. It's not a God-given gift. It actually develops over time with more exposure. So those students who raise their hands, it's often because they've already been exposed to a good amount of information about politics. Now here's the good news for you. If you're just starting now, or even if you slack off for the next few years and you hit your 20s and you decide you want to become interested, it's not too late. You don't have to go back and make up everything you've missed. If you want to become a citizen who understands what's going on, just start from here on out. Listen to the news, read the news, watch the news, get information, and try to get it from a variety of sources early on before you become steadfast in your thing. Try to get it from a variety of sources so that way you can form your own opinions. And then you'll notice if you watch the same news, if you watch just the nightly news, 5:30 p.m. programming, it's 20 minutes when you take out commercials. So if you watch that every night, in 2 weeks, you'll be up to date and you'll start to be able to follow what people are talking about. It's not that tricky. You just need to actually take a little bit of time, and it doesn't even require that much. And as you develop and you get more interested, you'll probably be interested in taking more time. Okay, so your political socialization helps you develop your ideology, your set of beliefs. But I want to make sure here that we know the difference between ideology and party. Your ideology is a coherent set of beliefs. This is, unwavering if you're liberal or conservative, communitarian, or libertarian. But if you're in the middle, your belief system is a little more about moderation. The party is just an organization to win elections. The party refers to an organization who wants to win elections so that they can make change in government. Now, often what keeps a party together is going to be a basic set of beliefs. And in this country, because we have a two-party system, the parties are going to, try to be moderate to appeal to at least 50% of the voters. But the parties can change, they can compromise, they move around. So at this point, as I record this, the Democratic Party attracts people with a liberal ideology. A lot of the policies the Democratic Party's been promoting in the last 10 years and continues to promise to promote line up with a liberal ideology. And then the Republican Party is attracting conservatives. The policies that they're planning to promote, that they're advocating when in office, lines up with that conservative ideology. So I don't want you to completely intertwine liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican. But if you do, we'll know why, because there's a lot of that they do line up, at least right now. But the parties can change, their platforms can change, certain topics can change. So right now what I'm showing you is some generalizations. So I'll let you copy this, pause it, copy it. So you can see there's some differences. Generally Democrats are pro-choice, Republicans are pro-life. Now if you're a Democrat, that doesn't mean you have to like everything on this side. There are plenty of pro-life Democrats and some pro-choice Republicans. So these are just generalizations. Democrats tend to be against the death penalty, Republicans for the death penalty. I put the asterisk there because I think this could be changing. When the two parties have an issue that they agree on, what happens to the issue is it disappears off this list. It's gone. It's no longer an issue. And that is one that there are more states abolishing the death penalty. I think that could be a trend. Democrats and Republicans tend to disagree with regards to guns. Democrats wanting more gun control legislation, Republicans wanting to protect gun rights. Here, Democrats favor marriage equality. In the past, I've written Republicans favor the protection of traditional marriage. That, I put an asterisk because I think in the next 10 years you're going to see that fall off the list. There are still some cries from Republicans to protect the sanctity of marriage, but I think this will go the way of all civil rights in the past, where it is accepted to be a societal expectation that we respect marriage equality. I might be wrong. I'm just predicting that might come off the list. So if you want to put on the Republican side, favors protecting traditional marriage. On the right side, I put Republicans tend to be traditional conservative. I should have added as a counterweight what Democrats would call themselves or take pride in. They would call themselves progressive. And then finally, if we remember how the Democrats represent a liberal ideology, Republicans a conservative ideology, and then you think about when you did the survey, the two axes, the X and the Y axis. One measured freedom versus order, one freedom versus equality. And the big difference between liberals and conservatives is over how to balance order and equality. Both love freedom. This is America, after all. But Democrats would want a government that promotes equality a little more than order, and Republicans order a little more than equality. And so that's going to play out in how they spend their tax dollars. Democrats would want to see more money going to programs that provide benefits and services, while Republicans would say, let's have more programs that are going to go to maintain order, protecting our borders, and protecting our citizens. Okay, so the next clip is going to go into voter trends. So here's what you should do. I'm going to put up a chart, some sort of diagram, discuss it. What you should take down for each one is the title of it, one or two conclusions that you're supposed to see. So that's the obvious stuff. And then the why, the explanation of why you see this trend. Okay, so you can go on to the next video.